What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're jumping in with some Destiny 2 news and updates. And firstly, today Bungie touch on some upcoming economy changes which will be broken down in full this week. They also dropped a new hotfix yesterday which wasn't actually a hotfix, teasing that there's nothing secret within, which of course set a bunch of folks off looking for secrets. So we'll explain that, and they respond to feedback around crafting in Season 18. But additionally we're going to touch on some hidden weapons in collections, a new exclusive transmat effect, and more in the video. So I hope you guys enjoy this one, but before we get into it, the video today is sponsored by Keeps, the leading brand helping men to look after and keep their hair. Keeps offer an online service which provides hair loss treatments to help guys combat the symptoms of hair loss. As I get older, personally I've definitely started keeping an eye on that hairline because I like my hair, and this is where Keeps comes in. Their main products are clinically proven treatments which help reduce hair loss, improve hair growth, and keep your hair healthy, whether you're losing it or not. But 2 out of 3 men will experience some amount of hair loss by the age of 35, and whether you want to avoid losing your hair or stimulate hair growth, Keeps have a range of products available that can be delivered straight to your door, such as their hair growth solutions or the protective thickening shampoo. Their products are really nice and discreet, plus when you start a Keeps subscription plan, you get access to 24/7 care and support from expert medical advisors for a full year. Their tagline is "Hair loss stops with Keeps," and if you want to check out their awesome range, you can get 50% off your first order by going to keeps.com/houndish or clicking on the link in the description box below. So if that sounds good, be sure to check it out, and thanks to Keeps for sponsoring the video. Starting out with a couple of updates from Bungie here today, and quite a few players noticed in last week's TWAB that Bungie had said they were going to speak about material changes coming in Season 19, and that's on top of all of the weapon stuff that they discussed, as Bungie outlined a bunch of exotic updates and weapon changes that we'll see in both Season 19 and Lightfall. However, there wasn't any commentary about changes to materials in the game, so Liana Rupert followed up on Twitter and said, "Heads up about the part about destination materials. We'll have those details in next week's TWAB. We shifted it to include new information, and we'll have that for you then." And so Bungie are going to give details on some economy changes this week, and especially there seems to be that focus about destination materials, so it'll be interesting to see what Bungie are changing. Of course, considering these materials take up inventory space, with there being a bunch of destinations in the game, adjustments to how those materials work and where they're actually stored could potentially have a big impact on inventory space and cleaning up some of the collections in the game. So while they won't necessarily be making major adjustments, it looks like we'll at least see a few Season 19 updates this week, as well as possible info about Festival of the Lost, considering that's going to start next Tuesday. Next though, yesterday the game received an unexpected hotfix, although there were no changes that actually impact gameplay, and the patch notes were that this is a test, please ignore. We're testing some new tech for a different type of hotfix. There are no hidden quests or things being added or changed. They finished by saying if you want to go hunting, feel free, but don't come crying to us when you don't find anything. And DMG confirmed further on Twitter that this is simply a test, and obviously Bungie are working on something in the background right there, and they didn't want to not post any patch notes as that would cause more confusion. But fear not, I guess. The next update to Destiny will be next week, and we've heard about a few changes that we'll see there in last week's TWAB. Another quick thing that Bungie did post yesterday though, is a new transmat effect that we can get in the game, which they released as part of National Coming Out Day. So if you want to grab a funky rainbow transmat effect, simply redeem the code on screen, and I'll add the links for that down below, as well as the article associated with it. Next though, quick thing from Reddit and Testify posted, thanks to this week's TWAB. It's possible to calculate the precise odds of getting multiple perks in the 3rd and 4th columns on Crucible playlist weapons after rank resets. And the community managers loosely confirm that this is correct on that post. But basically it boils down to this: each reset increases the maximum number of perks you can get in either the 3rd or 4th columns. So at 0 resets you'll get 1 in each column. At 1 reset you can get 2 maximum perks in the left and 1 in the right. Then we can see a 2nd reset gives the possibility of 2 perks in each column, with a 3rd reset being 3 perks in the 1st column, 2 in the 2nd column, and a 4th reset being 3 perks in each of the columns. And so something to bear in mind if you are specifically resetting to get access to those perks, and I'll link the Reddit thread down below. DMG did go on to outline some of the feedback that Bungie are recognizing relating to seasonal crafting. And he says in particular, season challenges that have gone live recently are pushing players to feel like they need to craft a bunch of weapons quickly. And he makes clear that acknowledgement of certain issues doesn't mean there will be an immediate change to any of the crafting systems, but these are some of the major things they're passing to the team for future opportunities to improve it. So initially, a season challenge went live recently that required players to reach level 10 on 3 seasonal crafted weapons. This led led to some negative feedback surrounding crafting, as it didn't feel like an appropriate objective to unlock a seasonal vendor upgrade. And he recognises that there were a few bugs impacting acquisition of seasonal deep sight weapons, which made it very difficult to craft one of them in the first few weeks of Plunder, and this has pushed poor feedback around the grind, and additional feedback about acquisition of deep sight weapons being rough. Then he goes on to say the objective of crafting and leveling 3 weapons to 10 can be confusing for players, as it doesn't give a good idea of which weapons qualify. And of course there are season weapons from the current season, and he highlights that this could potentially be seen as weapons from this season or any other season. But what about raid weapons? Of course Kingsfall weapons were released this season, and there were also questions about did it need to be 3 unique weapons, or could a player craft a single weapon 3 times and level each of them up to 10? And so he makes the suggestion that the description could be updated to give more of a clear understanding, or the requirements could be altered to make it a bit more open. They also recognised the additional season challenge that required players to earn and craft 3 seasonal weapon patterns. And he says as well that the team has recently increased a few sources of weapon progress, but players would still like to see changes in the area of leveling up a weapon and unlocking its perks. And as well, they recognise that it can be frustrating to players when receiving duplicate deep sight copies of a weapon that's already been crafted, especially if they've been looking to craft a specific weapon for some time. And finally, he says there are many more feedback items around crafting in general, but they wanted to call these out, and they say keep the feedback coming, and we'll keep passing it to the team. I'd say that definitely recognises some of the issues around crafting at the moment, and the sense of grind that it creates, right? So give us any of your thoughts on crafting in general down in the comment section. I'd love to see any top changes that you guys think we should get. Next though, for a quick weekly story update, very briefly, and we finally finished the main Plunder story quest. There was a cutscene for the story this week, so spoiler alerts are necessary, and we finally caught up to Ido, who was cornered by Aramis. And despite Mithrax having the opportunity, Aramis was allowed to escape, which abruptly ended the sales of the ship stealer questline. It was certainly a bit of a non-finisher for the story at the moment. However, as we've known for a little while, it looks like a community event type activation will occur later in the season, and this is where we'll help to improve the Elixni quarter. And of course, it's possible that this may progress the story for season 18 as well. So it's not quite over yet, at least not entirely, but we'll have to see what happens. And for now, if you want to check out the full cutscene from this week, I did upload it to the channel, so that is linked below. The final thing I wanted to mention here though, but there's some interesting weapons in the database at the moment, and Waller on Twitter pointed out that LightGG has things like the Imperial Decree shotgun, and that's one of the old menagerie weapons that we didn't get last season with the reprised Leviathan. And these weapons are actually visible on LightGG in the collections. So under shotguns, there's Imperial Decree, although the item itself is classified, but it does have an icon for this season on it, which is interesting. And then also looking at the season 18 collections under swords, there's a listing for Throne Cleaver, Death's Razor, and the Gold Tusk. Those are 3 swords for Menagerie that were originally class swords. And once again, the items themselves are hidden, but they're visible in the collection, each of them with this season icon once again. And so players are curious as to why they're here. Of course, one possibility is that they were cut from last season, and Bungie never intends for us to get updated versions of the weapons at all. And the other possibility is that they potentially plan to reintroduce them at some point in the future. And I've seen speculation from players, perhaps Bungie will add them as event rewards. We do have things like Festival of the Lost, in which case they'd probably be kind of a reward on the side. Plus, there's a community event coming this season which is related to the Season of Plunder story. We don't know a tremendous amount about that event, but it could potentially be another source for drops like this. Just seems interesting that a certain amount of work was done on these weapons, preparing them to be reintroduced, but while they're hidden in the database, there is once again absolutely no guarantee that Bungie plan to bring these weapons back, and there could be unused threads from development. Give us your thoughts below whether you'd like to see them return whatsoever, or if you think it's likely. The other secret weapon, if you like, that we know about this season is a new sniper for Festival of the Lost. Same as the mech armor we're getting, there's going to be a mech-themed sniper, or at least that's what the 3D preview on LightGG appears to look like, so that's definitely going to be interesting, but with the event coming up shortly, I'm sure Bungie will give us some more details soon. For today though guys, that is everything we have to round up in the video, so I hope you've enjoyed this one and found it interesting. If you have, a rating below really does help us out, plus if you want to see more Destiny content, be sure to get subscribed and I'll keep you posted. Otherwise though, for today, thank you as always for tuning in, and I will catch you guys very soon.